Welcome to episode 24 of AI GTM Talks. Thank you for joining us today. As you can see, I've got a bit of a different look out here, traveling in Connecticut, on some personal and business. Now, I'm really excited to invite and have join us today. You're going to meet our speaker very shortly. What I wanted to talk about first was what this whole talk series is about. Essentially, what we realized was as AI comes in and is completely transforming go-to-market, there's a lot of confusion in the market. We wanted to help clear that up. So every week, we've been bringing in either a AI tech founder who can go deep in one area or subject matter experts, AI revenue leaders, practitioners who can kind of help us understand how you can apply AI for go-to-market in a significant way and get some tremendous value. So with that, let me quickly introduce David Quaid. David, welcome.
Thanks very much, Mani. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, I'm glad. I know we met recently through Pavilion, and what got me super excited about having you, David, on our series is you bring a lot of expertise and depth in an area that I think is an area of a lot of confusion and questions, right? People have. So I know we're going to get into it, but why don't we kick it off, David? Maybe if you can talk about what do you all do, your company, and if we can start there.
Yeah, thanks, Mani. I think you're right. There is a lot of confusion and misinformation flying around. I think everyone is very eager to get there quickly, right? We're moving faster than ever before. So my background, I founded Primary Position in 2004 when I was living in Ireland. I've been doing SEO ever since. Spent 2 years working with Microsoft Ireland and the UK. And one of my fastest growing clients hired me full time back in 2014, and I moved to New York, and they got acquired for 250 million in 2019. And so I've gone back into consulting with startups, mainly in tech, SaaS, cyber, AI, and wealth management, and helping those companies generate leads from search, whether it's Google or Bing, or now as we are seeing ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and Gemini. So it's a really interesting sort of crossroads that we're in. I think this is the biggest change to hit search since I started using search engines back in the 1990s. And I think it's a really interesting time. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people. I think the main thing is that the search dynamics have changed in the sense that with Google very much rewarded the top three. And I think with LLM search, they're spreading that a lot more between the top 10 to top 30. So it's really, my message today will be, I think this is for everyone. I think anyone and anyone can rank. And so that's what I hope will be the takeaway.
Yeah, awesome. And David, I think you'll be no surprise. We have a lot of questions starting to roll in. I know we want to go there, and I'll review those and see what all we can tackle in the time we have. So you are an SEO consulting agency. It's probably worth noting that you moderate some of the biggest SEO forums. I think I was like blown away. I think you said one of them has like 400,000.
Yeah, we just broke 400,000 users. It's pretty big. We get about 700 submissions a day, so it's a lot of work. There's a lot of advertising that we have to or spam we have to cut back, but it's very interesting. It keeps me ahead of the curve.
That's what I figured, because you're right in the middle of it. Let's talk about your agency. Who do you all primarily serve? Who do you target in terms of industries and company sizes? And if you can give folks listening a sense of who do you all work with?
Because I used to be a software engineer, I like working with tech SaaS companies a lot. Yeah. And so any size company, as long as they're really keen on getting leads from Google and from search, that's the main priority. If that's their main lead generator, or that's where they want their main lead generator to be, then I can help them build that. And so I work with building content strategy, keyword research, YouTube, and Reddit strategy.
Got it. So now let's talk about this. I mean, I think maybe a good place to start is there's been traditional search and Google search and SEO. And now in the last couple of years, we've got all these LLMs that have popped up. AI tools that have popped up, ChatGPT, Claude, et cetera. How has AI changed the way you've got to approach go-to-market at companies in the context of search, in the context of content? If you can maybe lay out, 2, 3 key high-level things that people should be thinking about.
Okay, I think the first fundamental is, when Google launched a search engine back in 1998, there were 3,000 search engines, and Google came to market with PageRank, and PageRank is something that people love or hate. A lot of marketers hate it because it's based on backlinks, and they don't like that. They want it to be based on content, and I've seen a huge push to try to convince people to write good content. That's Google's cry, is good content. The problem is when it comes to building a go-to-market strategy is that Google actually is content agnostic. And I think that's the first thing that people need to center, right? And the reason it's so important is because PageRank has been so successful, no one's ever tried to beat it, right? Bing is a clone version of PageRank. Brave Search, which Claude outsources to, it uses PageRank. Yandex and Baidu in their market uses PageRank. So nothing has beaten PageRank, and I don't think anything else is going to come along. I mean, if somebody beats PageRank, that's $1 trillion idea right there, right? Because Google's revenue is $300 billion. So I think while a lot of people don't want to hear this, PageRank is here to stay, and none of the LLMs are independent search engines. So they're not building their own search indices the size of the Googleplex. They are definitely using their own crawlers, but their crawlers are fetching results from search engines. So what happens when you go to an LLM and you ask it a question? It will either resolve the question from its own internal training. So if you say, like, what's the capital of France? It inherently knows that Paris is, because all of the things it's read on Reddit or Wikipedia will say Paris is the capital of France. Everything else, it'll go to a search engine. ChatGPT will go to Bing, and it will go to Google Maps for local search. Perplexity and Gemini go directly to Google, and then Claude uses Brave Search, which is a one-to-one clone of Google. So what that means is, if you want to appear in an LLM, you have to appear in Google or Bing, and that's it. The reason that most people are wondering if LLMs have their own search is because when they type in something similar to what they're searching for in Google, they may not see themselves. And the reason for that is what we call the query fan out or the query drift. And what that means is the LLM is changing the prompt or breaking the prompt down into different queries. And that's sort of changed what you're ranking for. So what you used to rank for, still good, still want to do that. But now you have to start reverse engineering the query fan out. And so one of the tools we'll be looking at today is the Dejan SEO tool. And maybe we can get some prompts from the audience. And I've got a few pre-prepared prompts that we can look at and see how that works out and how to rank for it. I think the second thing that people need to start thinking about is co-ranking. So the last 25 years has been dictated by companies build a branded domain, so Microsoft.com or Salesforce.com, and they put all of their content on that, and they grow a monolithic website. I think a strategy that has been favored by growth hackers, a lot of startups I've worked with, Series A to C, we build a lot of satellite domains and microsites. So for example, when I was at chemtechnologies.com, a company that built network load balancers, which are still in use, 30 years later. We built a couple of websites like exchangeloadbalancer.com because Exchange was our biggest workload. We built freeloadbalancer.com, and we took a version of our enterprise product and made it free for everyone to use, but we limited it to 20 megasecond. And by building freeloadbalancer.com, we took the #1 position in Google and Bing for free load balancer. And all you had to do was sign up, give up your email address, and you had a free load balancer. And that generated about 160 leads a month for us. And even though Kemp has been acquired by Progress Software, which is $1 billion company, they've still kept that freeloadbalancer.com running. And that's something that I will always bring to other companies. If you think about how LLMs work, they take 30 results or 10 results from the search engines. Their crawlers go and fetch the pages. This is typically done in advance, so it's not necessarily done live. And then the LLM synthesizes the content. So I think LLMs have done a really good job of looking very smart. It looks like they do a lot of research. When you start to scratch the surface, you find that veneer is very thin. They will take whatever documents are presented to them, and if that result set changes tomorrow, their feedback will change. So they're not really doing a lot of research. And the opportunity here for people going to market is, if they're not present today, they can change the narrative, right? So I think some of the how it works information that you see on LinkedIn, where I think most of the information is wrong, is that LLMs do a lot of research. You have to write a special way. You need schema. You need co-citations. You just have to appear in a result set. And so, go for it.
No, so I was going to say, David, just want to give you a heads up. A lot of questions are coming in. I know you're going to be tackling some of these in our session today. Just to run down some of the questions, and then we can go back to our discussion here. A bunch of questions around query fan out tools, what it is, how it works, what problem does it solve better than traditional keyword search tools. What specific LLM AI-powered tactics have proven the most effective to improve lead to customer conversion rates? Are there examples where AI content has actually outperformed human content? How do you see AI impacting? Wow, a lot of interest, David, in what you're discussing today. So I think you've given a good primer for all of us around LLMs and how they really work, and how people can actually change the narrative and change and make an impact in terms of being present rather than be absent. So that's amazing. So the whole playing field is changing for search, that's clear. But it's still complex, right? To try to keep up with it or make sense of it. So now maybe we can get into some of the questions that are coming in around. I want to touch upon, because I know we also covered this, earlier as we were preparing for this session. Can we get into maybe some of the specific use cases where this AI LLMs are actually delivering value to customers in putting in the work, so to speak, right, and being present there? And another one related question: what percent of overall inquiries or intent is searching is happening in the LLM AI world versus in the traditional Google Bing world?
Sure, that's a great question. And I think this is where it's getting scary. When I started with digital marketing, we had a lot of analytics data. So everything that happened on the internet happened inside a browser. We had referral information, and all of that's been disappearing. Now we have consent mode that's killing cookies in analytics. We have people using apps, and they don't really report traffic. So the real answer is we don't know, but we expect that the LLMs are somewhere between 1% and 5% of search traffic. The reason we don't know is because the LLMs aren't reporting how many users they have and what types of queries they're brokering. What we can do is sometimes pick up how many search impressions they send to Bing and to Bing and Google, but other search engines don't report that. So we're actually going to be entering a huge sort of darkening of analytics, and that's going to be very scary for a lot of people. And so I think it's good to have a foundation in the basics and go with your gut, right? So
so if it is 1% to 5%, I mean, take the typical startup, Series A, maybe seed. How is it worth putting in the time, energy, effort in tackling the LLM problem right now, or should people wait?
I think so. The problem with the overall Google search numbers, and they're 95% stranglehold or 90%, depending on who you talk to. Whenever there's a Google monopoly hearing in the US or EU, the Google's percentage drops down to 80%, and then it goes back up to 90% again. The problem with that is that that's a lot of mobile search, different generations. I think for people building companies right now, if you're in the cybersecurity industry, or if you're in the network stack or cloud, the percentage of users using LLMs goes way higher. So people selling cybersecurity products, for example, could be seeing as much as 20% of their traffic coming from Perplexity. And so the more educated the problem, or the more difficult the problem, the higher the likelihood that people are using LLMs, especially if they're trying to compare products. So today, if you want to, or yesterday, if you wanted to compare a product, you would rely on sites like G2, Capterra, Peer Insights, that kind of thing. And they give like semi-objective reviews, but they're not very good, right? They don't really get into the nitty-gritty of why people use the products. They try to create a comparison that matches all of the features that the different tools have. But if you are used to using Perplexity or Claude or Gemini, you can ask a much more sophisticated questions like, I'm a federal contractor. What types of CRM should I use for companies with 100 employees and 20 people in our sales team? And they're getting much better feedback where they can ask for a matrix table, a comparison table. So if you're a company and you've been avoiding building competitive content, now you need to change that. But the good news is that the AI tools can actually help you with that. So you can take an LLM tool and say, look, here's 3 of my competitors, create a comparison matrix for my product, and it'll do that in 5 seconds.
Got it. Well, that I think that you've actually given people a lot of I think good insight and tips there. One of them, what I picked up on, what you just said, is don't ignore LLMs and SEO LLM, because depending on the complexity of your product or technology or solution and the audience you're catering to, more than your typical 1 to 5%, maybe even 20%, could be interactions are happening, engagement is happening, people are learning about what you have to offer in the LLM world. So that's one, and the notion of comparison and the comparison content, comparison pages. Now, can we talk about again, specific use cases, and if you have any examples to share around positive impact you've seen at any of your customers or clients? So I know we need to cover that. That's one thread of questions, which is around impact, conversion rate, and engagement. The other is, I mean, I know you prepared some material around the query fan out tool and how that works. Which one would you like to cover first?
Let's take a quick look at how to measure impact. I think that that's going to be key so that people can understand what they're currently getting to help prevent ignoring it. So Google Analytics is a great place to get the data. So if you already have analytics in your stack, the good news is you can build on that. So CloudBrink is a company that was started with by software engineers from Citrix and Cisco, and they are replacing the VPN. So any companies with remote workers, VPN slow their access down, and CloudBrink is there to help them speed up their access. Okay. And what we've done is we've built this custom Looker Studio report that runs from their basic analytics. So here's the data in analytics, but it's giving a whole lot of data like referral traffic, organic traffic, and we used Google's Looker Studio, which is completely free, to help break out the traffic we want. And so we've broken it down into ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude, DeepSeek. And if you look at the graph per month, the amount of traffic they've been getting from ChatGPT has grown exponentially. It's gone up 5x in the last month. Oh. And from their analytics, we can see what landing page the users are being sent to. So, for example, this is a blog post about cybersecurity solutions for legacy VPNs. This is a blog post about zero trust and identity access management. And then all of the different lead forms. I'm sure that a lot of our audience will have demo request forms, contact forms. They might have an AWS lead generator event or a sign up event that they can track. And so we can see all of the visits that are coming in and any of the leads that have been tracked. We just anonymize the data because it's obviously, we don't want to share how many leads CloudBrink are getting.
Fair enough. So what are the tips here for folks listening about the types of content that you all may have created to drive this uptick in LLM inquiries? Anything there?
It's the same content that we built for SEO, but there's a couple of tweaks. One is that during the query fan out, and I think that's what we'll jump into next, we can see the LLMs are modifying it. So it's basically about augmenting our original keyword research. So if we started with keyword research like the best VPN replacement, we now need to consider phrases like best VPN replacement for 2025. And that's because of how LLMs work.
Got it. Got it.
So let's do that. Let's go to, so one of the examples I pre-prepared is top AI SEO expert. I thought that would be a fun, it's not a massively complicated one. I'm not doing this to sort of brag or anything. I did it because it was quick and easy. So top AI SEO expert, it sounds like a good phrase to rank for. I just want to say that the people that do rank here, they are real experts. I don't think I'm in the top 20, but I wanted to show that even though I'm not really, I was still able to impact the results and change what the search engine said. So before I wrote these blog posts, I definitely wasn't in any of these lists. And as I've started to insert myself in the list, I'm starting to show up more and more. And if I can do it, I think anyone can. So the query I've put into Perplexity here is top AI SEO expert. I've picked Perplexity as a use case because it shows its steps, whereas ChatGPT doesn't. And ChatGPT is definitely the bigger search engine. So this is the prompt, top AI SEO expert. It's given me the top 4 sources. You can see where 2025 is starting to slip in, and here it's given a list with Lily Ray, Will Melton, Aleida Solis from Spain, and Mike King. And I've managed to get my name in here with my. So let's take a look at the sources that it picked up. So Watergraph, Exponent, Self-Made Media, and here's my website, Primary Position, CaliCube, and here's some Reddit links. So the most important thing to look at is the steps. Now, this changes throughout the day. It's called the query drift. In this case, it's not been very helpful. It's just stayed with top AI SEO expert, and it shows the different results. And if I go to Google and grab this search phrase, this is actually the search phrase that Perplexity goes to Google with. And this is why it's so important. So if I do a search for top AI SEO expert, there's Exponent, Market Hire, YouTube videos, there's Reddit, Exploding Tactics, there's CaliCube. So basically, they're the exact same results. And what Perplexity and the other LLMs will do is they'll send a crawler to fetch each of these pages, build a source list, and then the answer is just an amalgamation of the most common names. And that's literally how I got my name in here. And we can take this and repeat it with any other example. So for example, if we do
No, so sorry, David, before you go to the next step,
yes.
What specific things did you do? Because you said you had to prep your content in a certain way to get on top on these lists, right?
Yes. So basically, using basic SEO elements, I created a blog post that matched that search phrase. I published it, and I used my blog's existing Google authority to push it up. So once I'm ranking in Google in the top 10, then I'm automatically going to be in all of the LLMs. So if I go to Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini, I'm invisible in all of those search engines just from being in ranking in Google.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
So I haven't had to do anything else. There's no schema. I didn't have to write in any specific way. So a lot of the content that you read that tells you how to do it, there's a reason they're not showing any evidence. It's because I think a lot of it is unfortunately made up.
Yeah. Okay. And then were you gonna get into the whole query fan out and what that is?
Yeah. So let's do another demonstration. Let's pick a more complicated query. Let's do top cybersecurity products for CISOs for securing and reporting for companies with 100 people. So this is probably a prompt that someone's more likely to enter. And right at the start, you could see it breaking up the query fan out. So I've started with this prompt, top cybersecurity products for CISOs for securing reporting for companies with 100 people. And in the steps, we can see a query fan out. So Perplexity has taken this and it's broken it into top cybersecurity products for CISOs with 100 employee companies, best security reporting tools for small companies and for CISOs in small companies, and cybersecurity products for SMBs 2025. And it's run all of those queries, and basically these are the domains. And what we see is Google loves Reddit, Google loves YouTube. All of these results are coming from Google results. And a couple of interesting ones, for example, it's picked up on NerdWallet, and that's probably because I've used the number 100. And so what I think this shows is that a lot of these are listicles. There's no vendors in here, right? And I think this is a big thing that people are missing, and why they think they're invisible with LLMs. And that's because they don't create content with their target customer size in it, or using the words top 10. So if you go to a Citrix blog, you're not going to see them creating a listicle blog post like top 20 security products. And I think that's one of the changes. We have to start thinking that our clients or our future prospects are comparing us. And we have to get out of this mindset of just talking about ourselves. We have to start somehow comparing ourselves. And that doesn't mean you need to list your competitors. You can compare yourself to a market average customer. You could, if you've got an AI component, you could compare yourself to doing it without that AI component and show how manual it is or how laborious it is. There are lots of creative ways of doing this. The second thing it shows is that ranking on your own website is not enough. You are now going to need to be omnipresent. How can you be visible in YouTube? How can you be visible in Reddit? How can you be visible on LinkedIn and Medium, for example? The more often you appear, so in that particular example, we saw 3 query fan outs. That means that if you can appear 3 times in those, or at least in once, you have a better chance of being synthesized. But now you've got a chance to also get your YouTube content in there, whereas in a normal Google search, someone might have skipped over that. So the more often you can appear, the higher up that list.
Got it. What's your recommendation in the typical comparisons prospects do? Do they look at top 3, top 5, top 10, top 20? I mean, if somebody had to pick and choose what to focus on, or how do you rank on this?
I think there's always at least top 3. You know, if you're ever going to get budget and you've got to go to the CFO, you've got to go to the you're going to need to have at least 2 competing quotes. So it's going to be top 3, top 5. I think the challenge is how to create that content. And again, LLMs are actually really, really fantastic at doing that. And I think people enjoy product tables and bullet points. I don't think that people want to read 10,000 words. That's why they're using the LLM. They wanted to condense all of that. So, great tool. Go to Gemini or your favorite LLM and say, please compare me with these 2 products, and you'll have a web page in 20 seconds.
Right. So you explained the query fan out tools, and I think that the next segment was really around that, right? Game changers in terms of what's changing the game, right, with the LLM stuff. Are there other things you want to talk about? I mean, just anything about SEO Pub? Well, what do people need to know about that?
So that's another tool that you can use to when you're using LLMs. I haven't actually set it up for this call, but we can share that at the end. SEO Pub have a tool that allows you when you're asking a prompt, it basically does the same thing that I did with Perplexity. It returns back the underlying source that ChatGPT uses for you. So we'll share that with the Dejan. I actually have the Dejan tool set up, so we can take a look at this. So this helps you with the query drift and the and the different types of fan outs. So you put in your URL and then your query, and then it breaks out the different query examples. So one of the keywords I rank for in Google is SERP report. And now when I go to ChatGPT, I'm no longer visible. So I wanted to know what the potential other keywords I need to rank for. So this is like in my traditional SEO, my keyword research, SEMrush or the Google Ad Planner would have told me SERP report. And now the query fan out generator, I think this is much more simple than the SEO Pub tool. these are the queries. So I now need to consider SERP report example. And to be honest, I didn't consider that. It wasn't in my keyword research. SERP analysis tools, competitive SERP analysis. So now I've got to add all of these other phrases. And what I'll do is I'll go and find my web page that's ranking, and I'll see what I need to do. And so basically, this is my post from 2 years ago, actually. Why do you need a SERP tracking report? And I can come back to this and I can see, oh, now I need to add the word example, analysis, and competitive. So these are keywords that are missing here from my title. So I might create a new blog post, or I might add it as headings here. And so it's a relatively straightforward fix. But I have to establish that data first.
Got it. So I think, yeah, this is all good stuff. I do want to go back, David, to the questions we were trying to get a sense out, right? Because a lot of folks listening are probably, founders, or even, think of some of the revenue leaders. As always, you got to put work, time, effort, budget into this, and then you have time, budget into other things like outbound and other tactics, right, to drive demand and to generate outcome in terms of SQLs and meetings and being able to drive revenue. Do you have something more concrete, anything more you can set in terms of expectations? I mean, what are we talking about here in terms of investment versus ROI? In these kinds of efforts, maybe you'll need to break it down a bit, right, for companies at different stages. So
Okay.
maybe we can start at the smaller companies, SMB. Maybe there's more opportunity as you go up into larger companies. But certainly, I'm trying to understand what's the threshold in terms of where the investment is going to have to happen, and then what can they get.
I think that there's been some. I think there's been a lot of overinvestment in overproduction. So I think a lot of companies, when they're writing a blog post or doing a press release, they're spending days and weeks writing it, getting signed off from the executive team, leadership team.
And the big long post with 800 words
exactly.
and 1,000 words.
5,000 words, exactly right. Or they're doing the press releases from the 1980s, right? Company X did something very boring in industry Y, right?
Yeah.
All the wrong things to be doing. Firstly, I believe I started a concept with minimum viable content product. So, and I've changed that to fastest viable content product. So basically, when I look at all of these keywords, like that query fan out with the 10 different search terms, I will literally take that and drop it into a space in an LLM where I have it set up with my brand voice, other content examples I've written myself before, and I'll ask it to write a paragraph or 2 paragraphs on each thing. And then I literally go and post that to my website. I'll take a quick read, make sure it doesn't say anything wrong. And if it does, I'll just fix it quickly. Not very worried about the voice or the style or the layout. And I will just post that to the internet.
So a follow-up question on that. Is it, if you have a list of 10 or 15 of these keywords, are you saying a couple of paragraphs per keyword? Are you saying a couple of paragraphs that incorporate all of these keywords?
So what I want to do is I want to build a page for each individual keyword, and I want to have a couple of paragraphs per keyword. So that's a really good question. So what I'll do is I'll say, for this list of 10 keywords, write me a page on that, come up with a title with that keyword in the title, and give me 2 paragraphs, 300 words, and I'll go and post that. And the reason I'll do that is I want to see which pages will automatically go to and rank. If content doesn't rank, then I might as well not have done it, right? It's like that old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one heard it, did it make a sound? So there are some topics that I automatically go into the top 3, 4. And then those are the ones that are worth investing in time. And then the other ones, I need to come up with a longer strategy. So I think it's much more about how can you quickly cover topics than it is about how can you spend a lot of time covering one. I think if you're a fast grower, if you're a brand new startup, you can build content, cover lots of topics, and catch up much faster today than you could have 3 years ago. And I think that you have to consider, well, how do search engines rank you? versus how do I think a lot of people assume that the minute they publish something, they have readers, and that's not happening anymore. Email marketing is dead. People don't subscribe to blogs anymore. So I think you have to write content and see what content the search engine wants to share, and then you can start investing time in it.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So I know we have, about another 9-10 minutes here. Let's talk about you. I know you wanted to talk next about. We've talked about AI and how that's completely changing the SEO game. Couple more topics I definitely wanted to touch on. One of them is you mentioned Google is an incredible source. A lot of people have long form Google content. Like take for example this specific talk we're doing, which has very rich content in it, right? Any tips, tricks, suggestions for people when they have high quality long form content and how they can leverage that into driving more?
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll take an example from one of the podcasts I did before we met on Pavilion. Yeah. Sorry, I've just been signed out of Google. Just signed into Google. So, and this comes back to content production and investment. I think one of the places that people waste a lot of time and effort is overproduction. I think what we can do is take content, produce a lot of videos from it. So we can take the same text, produce YouTube videos. So what I'd like to do with this video, for example, when we're finished, is break it down into maybe 10 or 20 bite-sized videos, find a matching search phrase for it. So for example, where I'm talking about opportunities and threats in AI, make a video about that, upload that to YouTube, and then link that short video back to the long video. And again, it's all about covering multiple bases. So taking the one video I've spent an hour making, I can turn that into 10 videos. Maybe I can get 1,000 views each. That gives me 10,000 views. So suddenly I'm scaling up much, much faster. Whereas if we just produce one video out of it, we'd maybe get 100 to 1,000 views. And so that's just a fraction.
Got it. Do you have any tools that you use to kind of speed this process up in terms of for figuring out the right segments and putting the right tagging on these videos and publishing it out back on your YouTube channel or what have you?
Notebook LM is a great tool from Google that's free, where you can drop a video into it and it'll start breaking it out into sections for you, and then you can cut the video, and you can also cut it into blog posts. So it will take all of the language, the spoken language, and turn that into text for you. And then I'm still old school. I manually upload it to YouTube, but you can now use agents in your browser to upload that and automatically take the transcript and create a description from it, and use your keywords as your title. So you always want to match your content, whether it's YouTube or blog, with actual search phrases and not with sort of interesting titles. I think that's really important.
Got it. And one of the other things I know you wanted to cover today was this whole notion of misinformation, disinformation.
Yeah, I think that there's, and something that I really learned on Reddit over the last couple of years is that there are a lot of people who want to force change in industries, and they do that by telling people, the industry has already changed. We can see that in other parts of life. But I think it's really important to look at Google and strip it back and realize it's just a software tool. It's not magic. It doesn't know if your content is right. Most of your content is an observation, or it's about your product. So there's no way Google can know. And I think a lot of people believe that Google understands content or is a content appreciation engine. It's none of these things. It's impossible. And in the DOJ trial against Google, one of the slides that the DOJ shared was from their HR onboarding slides, where new employees were brought through. And slide 17 was a very interesting slide. It just said, we don't understand content, but we're very good at faking it. And that's how Google works. It will take your content, it'll put it in position 1, and it'll see how often people search again. So if you do a single search, your click-through rate will be 100%. If the user goes back and does another search, it drops to 50%. If you look at your Google Search Console, most of your traffic is around 1 to 2% which means a lot of people are researching. If you can stay above that 1.2%, you're going to keep that number one position. But if you think that your content is going to get you to first place, it's not. Google is very much based in page rank, which means you need backlinks. And I think when I open up Reddit in the morning and I see 20 people saying, I've got a really fast website with great images, with great content, I'm not ranking, it's always because they don't have backlinks. So unfortunately, you still need backlinks. That's what's going to make you rank. LLMs aren't going to pick you because you're an amazing writer or you were very concise. They're turning all of your language into a mathematical model. They're not looking at it in terms of prose and style and tone. They're just looking at words and objects and entities.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's a lot there. So let's now go to the next segment, which is pretty much as we begin to wrap up. Can you talk about this whole notion of AI-driven go-to-market in the context of AI, LLM, SEO, etc.? How do you see things evolving just looking ahead? Here we are in August of 2025. Just look ahead the next 6 months, a year, 18 months. What do you see happening, David?
I think that there's going to be a couple of drivers. I think you'll always have fast follow guerrilla tactics. They're going to come out. They're going to realize that the rules have changed. So it doesn't matter what your website looks at, because now people's first contact with you is going to be in a search. So this idea of spending a lot of time writing content when an AI is just going to rewrite it, that's going to change things. I think that we're going to see a lot more AI generated content. I think people are going to get upset by that. So I think it's still worthwhile, especially if you're doing video and especially if you're writing for the end user. I still think human made works best, but I think you have to understand the machinery and the context of getting it to people. I think that the number of searches that people will do will go up because the LLM is doing it, but the amount of actions they take will go down. So when you do get people from LLMs, I expect that they're much better educated than with the traditional Google model, where the first person might come in on an FAQ. Now the person's coming in after actually reading quite a lot, and so they're a little bit more educated. And I think you have to value them.
I wanted to ask you specifically. There's a question that somebody had asked about. Have you seen AI generated content outperform human created content for engagement, for conversions, and instances where it's actually is happening in your world?
Absolutely. One of when I was an SEO waiting for product managers to help me do product comparison pages, that could take a long time because they've got to work out what features to compare when they look good. We can now produce product comparison pages independently. So now the marketing team is independent, and instead of creating one, we can create them for different personalities. So instead of just getting one really well-produced chart that might have taken 2 months with lots of sign-off, you can now create one that is industry specific, or you could even generate them in real time based on hyper-personalization, depending on what pages the person visited. And that content is definitely going to outperform human-made content. And I think that's an exciting way for people to go.
I know we've got a couple more. One is, how do you see jobs changing, job titles because of AI? How do you see marketing, GTMs, anything that in your world changing in terms of what people do, jobs to be done?
I think if your job was just a content writer, you've got to add a lot more skills. I think content writers the most have been hit hard, unfortunately, since the rise of LLMs. I think the LLM can turn one person into a marketing team of 17. I can use Google VO to spin up a 5-second video or advertisement. The IKEA ad that was created on VO3 was phenomenal. I can create graphics for all my blog posts. So I think it'll take away from annoying tasks from the graphic design team, and it'll make marketers much more independent, so they can create a special image for LinkedIn and a special image for their blog post. I think you can get into much more personalized content. So I think AI is going to be a massive accelerator for the marketing team, making them independent.
And final wrap-up question for a company just getting started in this general area. Any quick tips for them? How do they get started, and where should they focus first?
Analyze your competitors. Find an adjacent company, so if there's no competitors in your space, find another company that you want to take. Analyze what they're doing. Get a tool like SEMrush that shows you the keywords they're getting the most traffic on, and start producing content. And then start building partnerships. Find other companies that are talking to the same people or similar people, and get your website to link to them. Too many websites are built as silos, and so they're not getting links from other websites. If you help other websites get links, that's what they need to rank in Google. That's what you need to rank in Google. I think that's a space that people leave for the last minute. They produce all this content and no one's visiting their site.
Thank you, David. And now, great session, by the way. So, really appreciate it. So how can people get in touch with you? I put up a couple of emails, LinkedIn. Is that the best way?
Yeah, and also come to RSEO on Reddit, and you can find me on X as well as David Quaid. And if I can help anyone, would love to hear from you.
Okay. Amazing session, David. Thanks again. Appreciate you doing this.
Thanks,
folks.
Mani.
That wraps up episode 24 of AI X GTM Talks.